Terry's known as to be the Stone Lady. Now, how did you get the name of the Stone Lady, Terry?
Because of my passion for stones and that I use them and I'm immersed in their energy most of the time.
Now, of course, me and my background of being a witch and noticing, following a lot of Cunningham and, picking up the first thing that calls to you is what it's meant to be. Have you been doing that all along, collecting all these stones?
Yes.
And what began first, the first stone that you actually decided to start carrying around with you?
The first one was this piece of rhodochrosite. I was really drawn to the shape and to the color.
It's shaped like an egg.
Yes. That would have to be one of the first ones.
May I see?
Sure.
It's a very cooling stone.
Yeah.
Very nice. And what could you tell me about this stone?
Well, the books will call it unconditional love. I call it the stone of a survivor. It starts in Argentina as a stalactite.
Funny you should hand it to me.
It grows like drip by drip by drip over a period of hundreds and thousands of years. The reason I call it a survivor is because miners would go into the caves where the stone had grown, and they considered it in the way. It was blocking what they wanted to get to. So they took their equipment and just whacked it down, knocked it down.
Very nice.
It's almost as though the energy regrouped, though, and as it reinvented itself, it always was stronger. So the person who was drawn to that stone is basically a survivor, one who is doing the work of 3 people during this lifetime. So
in other words, such as myself reading crystal ball or reading tarot cards, your tool is stones and crystals, correct?
Correct.
So you actually, by being able to read an individual, it's by actually the stones that they would actually pick, correct?
Yes.
Now, I am going to have a guest who does not know Terry, and Terry does not know them, so that she can give a mini reading, if you don't mind.
Oh, that would be fine.
But you are actually from Gloucester.
Yes, I am.
And do you work out of home?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and you work at psychic fairs?
Yes, I do. We have a psychic fair at Hammond Castle in Gloucester every year as a fundraiser for the museum, and that's going to be in July, the 23rd and 24th.
Very nice.
In October, I work in Salem at the Psychic Fair.
The annual Psychic Fair and Witchcraft Expo Festival of the Dead at Museum Place Mall.
That's right.
Right where I'm at Bewitched in Salem. I also understand that you're going to be teaching for a witch school, which will also be out of Bewitched in Salem.
Yes, I'm very, very much looking forward to that.
Now, what will you be teaching for them?
Well, I hope some workshops on stones and crystals and
Wonderful.
the energies of them, the
Good.
personalities of them.
Now, I know that you had told me a story about how you actually had collected, and there's a man, a friend of yours, that actually goes and mines for some of your stones. See, you didn't think I'd remember that 5 years ago. What was that gentleman's name?
His name is Bill Adams, and we call him a gentle miner. He spends half of his year in Brazil and half of his year up in Canterbury, New Hampshire. When he's in Brazil, he takes long walks up the mountains, and he'll suddenly feel pulled to an area. He'll follow his intuition, follow what's calling to him, and he'll get on his hands and knees, and he pulls some of the most beautiful crystals I've ever seen in my life. They've never been exploited. The earth has never been dynamited like it has in so many of the areas. So he's considered a gentle miner, and his crystals have a really unique energy. I might not have brought any examples other than this one.
Mm-hmm. And what is this called?
That one is one that was formed in the midst of an earthquake, and we just call it earthquake quartz. But so, when that is selected...
But I do see some, a little bit of a rose or copper or even copal in there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Very nice.
Yeah, when that one would be selected during a reading, because it was formed in an earthquake, and an earthquake is a fault in the earth, oftentimes the person would be blaming themselves for something that was not their fault, something that just had to happen.
So kind of like a worry stone?
A little bit different.
So they
it's
wouldn't
almost
be carrying around because they have worries and be rubbing it, or would they?
right. I'm just pretty much referring to when they pick it off my tray.
As a
That would
reading.
tell me something about them. And one of the things it would tell me is that they, because of the iron, they're in the midst of ironing a lot out right now. But because it was formed during an earthquake, they may have a tendency to be blaming themselves for something that just had to happen, that was nobody's fault.
Now I see pyrite, and pyrite always attracts to me. Fool's gold to some, right?
Right. This is a wonderful sparkle to it, and the person who is drawn to it, in this case you, would have that similar type of sparkle. I consider pyrite to be a stone of somebody who can take something ordinary and you put your own magic to it and it becomes something extraordinary. So Rick, you have this incredible gift, this wonderful ability of bringing out your extraordinary sparkle. It's also a stone that would suggest you might consider doing more writing. It's a stone of a person who has a natural gift, almost the soul of a poet.
And Terry, I'm writing a book.
You are?
I am.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
That's
I know you didn't
wonderful.
know that. That's lovely. Now, Terry, being from Gloucester, how do you find clientele to be? Is in home parties, things of that nature? Is it all word of mouth, or have they actually come to see you just by coming to see you at a fair?
That's a good question. I do have a website, www.thestonelady.net, and some people, when they're doing research online, will find me that way. In the past, I've worked at a lot of Renaissance fairs, which was wonderful because I would dress up as if I just stepped out of the 15th century with my tray of stones and be the stone lady and do psychic readings on people.
Now, since we're getting into psychic reading, I'd like to stop at this time so that I can bring our guest on the show and have Terry do a reading.
That would be great.
Okay, wonderful. Our guest, Min. Min is actually going to get a reading by Terry Milton. So I'm going to leave it to you at this point and have fun.
Hi, Min.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. What I like to do is have you pick a couple of stones with your eyes open.
Okay.
And I talk about what those stones say. Then I'll have you close your eyes, and this is on a Lazy Susan, so I'll turn the tray around and have you pick a couple of other stones.
All right, sounds
Okay?
good.
So with your eyes open, I'd love it if you would pick out, let's do 2 stones that you're drawn to. And just physically, you pick them up and give them to me. Okay. Okay, terrific. The first one that she was drawn to was a stone called malachite. Malachite, this particular stone, is from the Arizona, New Mexico area. And it represents somebody who's very creative, very artistic, but you've gone through major changes. It's been an intense year of many changes. This stone would have begun as the stone azurite, the blue stone azurite. And one of the things it says about you is you love to surprise people. You've got a great sense of humor. You're not afraid of stepping back and even making yourself the butt of a joke if it's going to raise the energy for people. In the old days, artists would take the stone azurite, this beautiful blue stone, and they'd grind it to a powder and they'd mix it with linseed oil and they would paint. So you probably have a lot of artistic talents. What they hadn't counted on is that in small pieces, the rock in the paint was going to go through a metamorphosis and turn into the malachite. So they would be left with these beautiful paintings that all wound up having green skies. So you're one that I would say you are always expecting the unexpected. You love to surprise people, but you don't like to be surprised.
That's
With this particular stone, it says it has a lot of little nooks and crannies. You're a person who appears very open, but you also keep part of yourself very private. And you share when you want to share. And you decide how much, not what anybody else decides. Does that sound a little like you?
yes, it does.
Okay. Where it's from the Arizona, New Mexico area, I'd also say that you're very, you have a very deep respect for the earth-centered type of spirituality. And the second stone you were drawn to is a piece of fluorite. This is the same similar stone to what Rick was drawn to, or what Rick had shown me. And in this one you can see that it's part green and part purple. I call this the stone of a chameleon because it actually changes color in different lightings. So you also, like Rick, have had to wear many hats. You have tried to be all things to all people. Basically, you morph into what the people need you to be. So if somebody needs somebody to say, smarten up, you know, that's who you are. If somebody needs like a hug, that's who you are, very warm and embracing. You might be a little bit too much of a people pleaser. This has had like a couple of nicks and bruises. I put all my stones together. I figure that they're very much like children. And people say, oh, you should wrap them individually. You don't wrap people individually. We all mix together. So it has, as a result, had like a few chips and knocks here and there. You've also had your share of hard knocks and things that could have been very devastating. What you did is you allowed it to heal and you moved on. So you might still feel, especially like on a heart level, that there's something missing, that there was somebody from the past that you can look back on now with fondness, but you realize how much you've changed as a result of having loved at that time. So I'm going to put this back. Any questions on this so far?
No.
Does it sound a little like you?
Yes, it does.
Okay, great.
A little scary.
The next thing I'm going to do, this is on a Lazy Susan, so I'm
Okay.
going to turn it. And with your eyes closed, any way that you want, I'd like you to pick out 3 more stones.
Okay.
Okay, and you can just sort of pass them to me.
Okay. Now?
Yes, whenever you're ready. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. We picked out some beauties. This one is called Desert Rose or selenite. And selenite is a wonderful stone. It's found on all 7 continents. My own theory or belief is that it's a universal stone. So it would be on every star, every moon, every planet throughout the universe. You have connections from far away. You'll find yourself saying, I don't know how I know this, but this is what's going on. It's almost like you are very connected with what's going on in the larger picture. This one is more specifically Desert Rose. And it has 2 roses that have kind of grown together. It looks very much like a turtle. So one of the first things I would say is that you've learned to stick your neck out. You've learned to take risks, because the turtle only makes progress when he sticks his neck out. So you've become like a bit of a risk taker. The other thing I would say about it, selenite or desert rose, is usually a stone of somebody that has high ethics. You're a person who is a lot tougher on yourself than anybody else would be.
Oh boy.
You know,
Bingo.
very quite wonderful. Another thing that I find interesting is this one has 2 that have grown together, and this one also has 2, in this case, 2 quartz crystals that have kind of grown together. So are you in a relationship right now?
I kind of was.
Okay.
Sort of.
Okay. It could be a few different things. It could be that there's a very tight bond, almost an incredibly tight bond between you and another individual. We'll talk about this stone, which Rick and I were talking about. I call it an earthquake quartz. You've never had things all that easy. You've taken the high road. You're very conscientious. You're very dedicated. You hate seeing anything or anybody exploited. It's almost as if it were happening to you personally. It's 2 quartz crystals. The unusual thing, traditionally we think of the quartz energy as being masculine. It's like the sun. So like the sun, you have the ability to illuminate and enlighten, to wake people up. But it can also burn and scorch. It's both. What's unusual about this one is this half of the quartz crystal is masculine and this piece is feminine. And that's very, very unusual. It's only very recently, I'd say probably within the past 20 years, that anybody's found any of the quartz crystals that have feminine energy. So it tells me that you're very balanced. You've got like a good sense of when to be active and when to be passive. Good balance, right and wrong, masculine, feminine. As you look at this, you see beautiful red on it. Red can indicate passion. In this case, that red happens to be iron. So you're a person who's not afraid to iron out different issues, and you've been doing a lot of work on yourself. You've also kind of learned to protect yourself. This one is a little bit cloudy. You're not letting everybody see your brilliance. You've kind of cloaked it a little, you know. Any questions on this so far?
No, it's great.
Okay, thank you. And the third stone you were picked, with your eyes closed, it's as if the stone is sending a very subtle energy and picking you. It's calling to you, and you kind of tune into that. I love doing it with your eyes open and then again with your eyes closed. So the third stone you picked with your eyes closed is actually called a Moqui marble, M-O-Q-U-I, marble. And some people will refer to it as the stone of a shaman. It's found in the Black Hills, and it's billions of years old. Scientists figured right now that it's a fossilized bubble, billions of years old, that is filled with sand. So kids would use these, and they would play with them just as though they were marbles. They would break them in half, and they would take the sand and mix it with berries and paint their faces. And when they'd hollowed it out, they had 2 little cups that they could also play with. When it pops out and rolls down out of the Black Hills, the natives believe that you're being visited by your ancestors. So I think you're probably very connected with some of your ancestors who have passed over. I love to consider it a stone of earth magic. And I think your magic is very tied in with the earth. It's grounded, it's commonsensical, but it's very, very much connected with the plants and the rocks and the oceans and, you know, with the
I'm a very
earth.
nature person.
Yes, yeah. So that's what I would kind of do. Then I would use the stones again to tune into any specific questions that you have. And if you wanted to ask a question, you could. If you don't, what I'll do is I will pick one to kind of, to give you an idea, and we'll call it for the next 6 months, some of the trends, okay? I thought you might like that better. Okay. So all I do is I close my eyes, and I feel the energy of a particular stone. And when I feel the energy, I will pick up the stone. Interestingly enough, it's going to be something that's very familiar for you. You'll probably find yourself working very much with the dualities, with the opposites, and the polarities. It's a stone that you're already drawn to, that you were already drawn to. I'm going to pick another one just to see if I can get a little bit more detail. Basically, this would imply there's not any real surprises, that you'll be doing pretty much what you've been doing. This is interesting. This is the one that I will read for the next 6-month period. And this is called labradorite. Chemically, it's identical to moonstone, so it's a stone of balance. It's a stone that says also, you've paid your dues. It's a stone and you're ready to strut your stuff. Often when this comes up in a reading, the person has really done a lot of work on themselves, but you've had to struggle. There was a desire to be perfect. you know, the perfect daughter, the perfect mother, the perfect teacher. And this stone is saying, you're perfect just the way you are. So during
thank you.
this, yes, during this particular, say, 6-month period, it's as though your inner beauty is going to be what people are seeing. You've come into your own, and people are going to see and recognize that you're beautiful inside as well as outside. Often when this comes up, I don't know if it will show up on the camera or not, but you'll see these brilliant golds and greens and blues, peacock colors. And you've earned the right to be recognized for who you are. So one of the undercurrents of this next 6 months would be you might expect yourself to get recognition for like the work that you have done. That could be in the form of a reward, an award, or just people kind of acknowledging who you are and all of your hard
Oscars,
work.
here I come.
Hey. So that is
Thank
pretty
you.
much like some of the stuff that I would do with the stones.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. That was great.
Thank you.
We want to thank Min for being our little guinea pig for a reading with Terry. Terry, I found that to be utterly amazing. I know Min personally, and you hit a lot of notes on her.
Oh, thank you.
Now, what I find really intriguing is how far you've come throughout the years of actually beginning this to what you're doing now. Now, I know that in October you have a line of people that wait up for you. Also, though, there are a lot of psychics out here in the community that really don't work with children. To be honest, I don't work with children. So it's more power to you that you actually can do children. Now, what do you actually find that when you read children, what do you actually find their readings to be like?
Children are just so open and so magical and so accepting. I love doing readings on children. It's very rewarding to me. I find kids are natural. They're so drawn to stones.
Well, I find that children are naturally psychic.
Very much so.
I have a tendency of myself that anybody under 14 years old, I can't bring myself to be able to tell them all these lovely, quality, good things when I'm reading cards, I know they're not going to be quality, good things. So that's my self oath. But so let's just say I was a 7-year-old child. Would you be telling me that this stone would be bringing me over the rainbow?
Actually, it's funny you should say that. It has rainbows in it. It has beautiful prisms in it. It's a Herkimer diamond.
Okay.
And
oh, it's a diamond. And we were
yes.
joking about diamonds,
Yes.
so that's good.
Yes. This is a stone that usually is very connected with an awakening, with waking up. With the child, I would explain how the stone was formed. It was formed in upstate New York millions of years ago when there was an ancient ocean. And as the ocean receded, parts of the ocean, the water, filled into the rocks. And
Now, is that where part of Howe's Caverns is in New York?
it's a little bit west of that. It's probably an hour and a half west of Howe's Caverns.